Belarus, under Alexander Lukashenko, has long depended on Russia for survival, but now signs suggest Vladimir Putin may no longer fully support him. With the war in Ukraine draining Russia's resources, Moscow is reducing aid and avoiding deep commitments to Minsk. This leaves Belarus increasingly isolated, facing economic collapse, public unrest, and political weakness. If Putin truly abandons Lukashenko, Belarus could fall into total chaos, threatening both its internal stability and the broader balance of power in Eastern Europe. Hello everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor channel. Please subscribe my channel because today we dive into one of the most shocking and dangerous turns in Eastern Europe. What happens when an ally is no longer trusted? What happens when power built on fragile promises suddenly cracks? Tonight we explore the story shaking Belarus and Russia, the moment when Vladimir Putin seems to step back from Alexander Lukashenko, leaving Belarus in a spiral of chaos that could change the balance of the entire region. The story in short is this. Belarus, under Lukashenko for nearly 3 decades, has survived through the constant political and economic support of Moscow. But after years of unrest, public protests, international sanctions, and Lukashenko's desperate attempts to hold on to power, signs are emerging that Putin may no longer see him as a reliable partner. With the war in Ukraine draining Russian resources, Belarus finds itself both exposed and isolated. This summary captures the essence. Belarus is facing unrest and political breakdown. Putin is hesitating to protect Lukashenko, and the resulting instability threatens not only Minsk but the future of the entire post-Soviet space. Looking at the exterior, Belarus presents itself as a country locked in turmoil. Streets that were once relatively calm are now symbols of division. Murals of protest, police barricades, and checkpoints define the visual image of the capital city. The government is still trying to present an image of stability through parades, flags, and speeches, but the exterior no longer matches the mood of the people. On the outside, the alliance with Russia appears intact, with joint military drills and constant propaganda about unity. Yet beneath the surface, cracks are visible. Russia is quietly reducing its economic aid, delaying promised energy subsidies, and avoiding direct commitments to Lukashenko's future. The exterior view is one of staged power, but it hides the fragility within. Inside, the interior of Belarus is suffocating. In every institution, from schools to media outlets, the state controls what people can say, what they can hear, and what they can imagine for the future. Fear has replaced trust, and silence has become the normal mode of survival. Within the presidential palace, Lukashenko isolates himself with advisors who only confirm his worldview. The short truth of the interior is simple. The inside of Belarus is fragile, closed, and trapped in an echo chamber of fear. Performance is where Lukashenko's system begins to show its failures. For decades, his rule depended on 2 key performances: loyalty from Moscow and obedience from his own people. Both are now fading. The performance of the Belarusian state in handling its economy has collapsed under sanctions. Factories are underproducing, trade routes are cut, and inflation eats away at daily life. The performance of its political system is equally hollow. Elections that once could be dressed up as legitimate are now openly dismissed by the international community. Lukashenko once performed as the strong man of stability, but today his performance looks like desperation. Even his speeches, filled with repeated promises of security, are losing their effect, and when performance loses credibility, power weakens. Safety features, the very systems designed to secure Belarus, are also showing signs of breakdown. In theory, safety comes from the police, military, and the alliance with Russia, but the police force, once feared, now faces growing resentment and fatigue. Soldiers who are ordered to participate in Russian drills quietly question whether they are protecting Belarus or serving Moscow's war in Ukraine. Safety, once guaranteed by the presence of Russian backing, is no longer certain. If Putin truly abandons Lukashenko, the safety features collapse instantly. Even within the elite security apparatus, whispers of discontent suggest that loyalty is not absolute. What happens when the system meant to guarantee survival is no longer secure? Belarus becomes exposed to internal revolt and external manipulation. Unique selling points once defined Belarus as the last Soviet-style state in Europe. For Moscow, the unique value of Belarus was its location, a strategic buffer zone against NATO and the European Union, a country that could be relied upon to host Russian forces and support Russian interests. For Lukashenko, the unique point was his ability to balance, threatening the West while bargaining for aid from the East. But these points are vanishing. Belarus is no longer uniquely valuable, but increasingly burdensome. For Russia, supporting Lukashenko means spending resources it no longer has. For the Belarusian people, his rule no longer represents strength but stagnation. What was once a unique selling point is now a liability, and Putin seems to understand that. When we talk about price, the cost of this fragile relationship is staggering. For Lukashenko, the price is legitimacy. Every step he takes to cling to power deepens his isolation internationally. For Russia, the price is resources. Billions spent on subsidies, military protection, and political cover with little return. The war in Ukraine has raised the cost of maintaining this alliance to unsustainable levels. For the Belarusian people, the price is their freedom, their economic stability, and their hope for the future. Sanctions cut off opportunities, repression silences their voices, and now the fear of abandonment by Russia leaves them feeling trapped between East and West. The price of this chaos is being paid daily by ordinary citizens who have little say in the decisions being made above them. The conclusion is unavoidable. Belarus is entering a dangerous stage of uncertainty. If Putin has indeed begun to step back, Lukashenko's survival is in doubt. Without Moscow's full support, his system could crumble rapidly under the weight of protests, sanctions, and internal divisions. For the region, the risk is even greater. A Belarus in total chaos could spark new conflicts, create openings for NATO intervention, and even push Russia into desperate moves to retain influence. The story of Lukashenko and Putin is more than a story of two leaders. It is a story of what happens when alliances built on fear and survival begin to fracture. And so, as we look at this unfolding drama, we must ask, is this the beginning of the end for Lukashenko? Is Putin willing to sacrifice Belarus for his own survival in Ukraine? Or is this just another performance, another bluff, in the dangerous game of Eastern European politics? What is clear is that Belarus stands at the edge, and the world is watching closely. This is the picture of a country on the brink, a leader abandoned by his most powerful ally, and a people caught in the storm of history. And this is why the world must pay attention, because the chaos in Belarus will not remain contained within its borders. It will shape the entire balance of Europe in the years to come.